Welcome to the show. It's time to dive in. Talking sports with Evan. Let the fun begin. From the Brewers to the Packers, we cover it all. Wisconsin pride, we stand tall. The baggers on the field making history. With every touchdown, it's a victory. From Camp Randall to the court, we chill out. Wisconsin sports, we make our state proud. Feel the energy, the passion in the air. Join the conversation, we got stories to share. From the Bucks' big wins to the Brewers' great plays, we'll keep you entertained through all the games. Hey, sports with Evan, it's where we belong. Wisconsin's heart.
Good evening and happy Thursday. This is a Thursday edition of Talking Sports with Evan, about an hour earlier than planned because, well, some storms coming through and some of them are pretty strong winds and severe, and didn't really know what would be expected in about an hour from now. So I figured not push it, just do a show now and not worry about potential, weather and power going off and all of that other stuff. So here I am live, and usually I focus more on local, which I will be talking some Brewers and some Packer thoughts and some Bucks thoughts, but some national stuff in general to discuss too that I'm going to focus on a little bit. NFL officiating, Major League Baseball replay, specifically the ABS system, the challenging of balls and strikes, and give my thoughts on that as well. So appreciate you all tuning in. You can find the show on X at Evan Witt Sports. You can also find it on Facebook and YouTube, Talking Sports with Evan. All past shows can be found on YouTube. Facebook, well, they delete them after so long. And X, you can find them, but might be a little bit harder to find. But you can definitely find each and every episode video on YouTube. You can also find the audio version as well on Spotify and Apple and anywhere else you get your podcast. Just look for Talking Sports with Evan. So I was going to do a show yesterday. Full disclosure, had all the intention to do a show yesterday and kind of made some last-second change of plans. And part of the reason was I'm going to be talking some MLB umpiring and rules along that. And one of the guys is going to pick on a little bit took a baseball to the face, or the mask, in CB Buckner. And I didn't really want to... I didn't really want to go too hard on him yesterday, knowing that he just took a baseball right here and had to leave the game because, well, the mask can only absorb so much. So going to start off quickly with baseball and then shift to the Brewers. So we are 2 series in for the Brewers, 5-1 through 6 games. Way to go, Milwaukee. Going to talk about them in a little bit. But one of the things is the ABS system. And we're about 6 games in. Wasn't really sure what it was going to look like and how it was going to be implemented in Major League Baseball. We saw it in spring training last year. We've seen it in AAA and AA, whatever, the past couple years. And we saw it in spring training this year. And early returns for me. And if you're watching live, want to give your thoughts on the ABS system, please let me know. You can comment on the video. I did get a few comments on a post on Facebook I made. But overall, early returns, I like the ABS system. I like it so far. I like it because it's kind of forcing umpires to up their game a little bit. Umpires could just give their interpretation of the strike zone, pretty much. This is my interpretation. And some balls were ridiculously off. They would be calling balls when it was clearly a strike or strike when it was clearly a ball. And the Brewers had a couple of those situations in the postseason against the Dodgers and the Cubs where the ball wasn't even close to the plate and they caught a strike and vice versa. And I'm sure it happened for other teams in the playoffs too. And it gets frustrating because you could the umpire's mistake completely derail a rally. That's the difference between a 3-2 count and drawing a walk, or a 3-2 count and being struck out just off of a mistake, which could easily be fixed. Tennis has had video replay on out or in calls for a while, and it doesn't really add any time to the game. You see the video, you see where the ball hit, and they either confirm it or they overrule it and they move on. And that's pretty much what we're seeing in baseball. We see a quick tap of the head. For those that are listening, I just tapped myself on the head. For those watching, clearly you saw me do that. You get a quick tap on the head, you see the replay, confirmed or not, and we move on. Do I think some of it's a little much? Like if it's, a very thin sliver on or off the zone, it's going to call it a ball or a strike. Is that a little too particular? Well, maybe, but at least they're getting the calls right. And the early returns on my Facebook page when I asked the question of people's thoughts, my old friend from high school, Tony, yes, I think they should have had it long ago to challenge. Some umpires can be more for the home team, and some miss obvious strikes and balls. Boyd is quick and works. Keep it. Dan, I anticipate a point where umpires are pushed to the background. They'll still be behind plate for other calls and to manage the game. Wouldn't surprise me if balls and strikes, etc., become automated, which I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we still have the umpire making the balls and the strikes, and this is just to correct the errors. And some teams have been very good. William Contreras, for example, the other day had a challenge where the ball was barely on the strike zone, but he called for it and it was. But I hope we don't eliminate, because the computer can make errors too. And I know when it was completely automated, I think in AAA at one point, or one of the leagues, it might have been one of the other leagues that played during the summer, the computer made mistakes. So I don't think we completely take the umpire away from the balls and strikes call, but I think it's a good idea to have a quick couple of seconds, typically, check to say, okay, that wasn't a ball, that was actually a strike out, inning over, rather than, that's just the winning run that just got walked home. So I do appreciate it for that. And again, what are your thoughts on the Major League Baseball ABS system where you can challenge pitches if it was a ball or strike? I do like that they set it at 2. Now, if you win your challenge, you keep it. But if you lose 2, you're done. I do like that. You don't get an infinity amount of challenges. And the one thing that might be missed eventually is the arguing between the umpires and the managers, or the guy at bat who just got totally robbed on what should have been a walk, but instead it was a strikeout, or the pitcher losing his mind over it should have been a strikeout, but now it's a walk. Those are going to be things we're going to miss eventually. But overall, I think it's a good system, and we're going to see umpires do other things that are going to really irritate managers, as we saw in the Brewer-Rays game on Tuesday, where CB Buckner, who behind home plate has had a lot of his balls and strikes challenged, and he's lost, I think, every single time somebody's challenged his balls and strikes. He ruled that Jake Bauers was out because he never touched home plate, even though there's a still photo that clearly shows his foot clearly on the bag. And thankfully there's replay there because we were able to quickly review it and get the call right. And the Brewers ended up scoring another run on that. And in the same game, you saw an umpire make a ruling that I don't think it was a second baseman, I think it was an outfielder that came in during the pickle, during the rundown. The umpire made the ruling that the guy lost the ball on the exchange from the glove to the hand when replay clearly showed he lost the ball on the tag, and that ended up getting the Brewers another run, and Bryce Turang ended up getting hit home later on. So those mistakes can totally change an outcome of a ball game, because what happens if Bryce Turang is ruled out, the other run doesn't score, inning is over, and the Brewers have a one-run lead. The game is tied rather than the Brewers having a one-run lead. Completely can change strategy for both teams. And what if the Rays end up hitting a home run and winning by one, when in reality that should have been a game tying run instead? But I enjoy so far the ABS system, and I appreciate that we have replay able to correct the blatant wrongness of umpires like CB Buckner. And guys like CB Buckner, old umpires like Angel Hernandez and Joe West. Now, I'm on the impression I do some football officiating for high school, and I introduced myself to the coach. But in reality, I don't expect him to remember my name 5 minutes after I introduce myself to him. I don't expect him to remember my name, because I don't want him to have to remember my name, because I want to get the calls right, make sure the game is executed properly, make sure there's no issues involving player safety, and I want to make sure everybody leaves at the end of the game without any problems. The umpires I just named, we know who they are for the wrong reasons, because those three tend to make themselves the center of attention. West and Hernandez especially, they're now retired, and CB Buckner does the same thing. He wants to make himself the center of attention. My thing is, if we know the names of the umpires or the officials as a fan, that's a problem. Now, yes, I know the Brewers especially, I'm sure other teams do it too, but they do give the umpire lineup before every single game. These are your umpires for today. The Cannon and Dunphy umpire lineup. That should really be the only time we hear the umpires' names. After that, shouldn't worry about who they are the rest of the game. Yes, we have our Wolf and our May guys that we know. May, because he is a Wisconsinite too, from the city I live in currently. But we shouldn't know, and we shouldn't need to know who the umpires are, is the point I'm trying to make there. So moving on to the Brewers. Now that I got that out of the way. The Brewers are playing outstanding baseball right now. The pitching, other than Sprout, has been very good. And I think part of Sprout's problem and the Brewers won the game, but Sprout didn't have a good outing. And I think part of the combination was it was his first start as a Brewer, plus he's being caught by somebody making his MLB debut at the big league level. That's a lot of pressure. For Jefferson Kiro, that's a lot of pressure, making his MLB debut, being behind the plate, catching a guy making his Brewers debut, and it went about as well as I think everybody expected. I think if Pat Murphy could go back in time, I know they brought Jefferson Kiro up because Sanchez is going to have to play some more first base. But I think if Murphy could go back in time, that was probably a game to put Sanchez behind the plate. Or, yes, he wanted to give William Contreras a day off his feet and play him at DH. Would have been a game to put William Contreras behind the plate just to ease the tension and the nervousness of Sprout. I'm sure Murphy would agree now that probably should have not had Jefferson Kiro, the guy behind the plate, for a guy making his first start as a Milwaukee Brewer. I think Sprout's going to be fine. I think he showed enough in spring training to show he's got the stuff. Now he just has to show it at the big league level. Outside of him, the pitching rotation has been really good. Mizorowski's 2 starts in, and he just has looked really good. And opening day, very good by Mizorowski. 11 strikeouts, had some difficulty early, settled down, and just blew the ball by everybody. Start yesterday against the Rays in the rubber match. I'm even more impressed. He had 7 strikeouts, but there was times in that game that he had to get out. He had to pitch to contact to get outs, and he showed that he can pitch to contact and get out that way because his pitch count was starting to climb. They want to get him through 6. The first quality start of the season for the Brewers. He ends up throwing 94 pitches in 6 innings. He had 1 inning where he probably threw like 7 pitches total, if even that, where he had 3 outs on a couple, like 1 or 2 pitches each. And the fact that you're seeing Jacob Misiorowski being able to get outs by throwing to contact instead of trying to blow the ball by everybody all the time, I think is an important step in the development of a Jacob Misiorowski, because now he's seen that he can get people out that way as a pitcher rather than just throwing the ball as hard as he possibly can, because his velocity wasn't really where it was after that first inning. He had a few 100s in the first, but after that, he was mostly 98, 97, 99. So he had to get guys out differently, and he gave up the 1 home run. But outside of that, he pitched outstanding, and I'm impressed with what Jacob Misiorowski was able to do yesterday. Impressed with Bryce Terang, and this is a fun team to watch so far. I say that as I tap the brakes a little bit. Remember, we are only 6 games into the season. Yes, I think the Milwaukee Brewers are a very good baseball team, but we are just 6 games into the year, and a lot can change over the course of the next 6 games, or the 6 games after that, or the 6 games after that. I always say this every season, and I will continue to say it. Don't get too high on the highs. Don't get too low on the lows. Baseball is a roller coaster, and if you get too excited over everything or get too mad over everything, you're going to be exhausted by the end of April. So just let the game happen and enjoy the wins, but don't over-enjoy them, and be sad about the losses, but don't overanalyze, overreact to the losses. I saw the Sunday game against the White Sox, the Brewers quickly down 6-1 or 2, and saw the overreacting of people of, oh my God, this guy is falling. This is an all-for lineup. Murphy's overthinking again. Gets brought off my team. He doesn't deserve to be here, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, it's a long season, and Sprout's going to be fine. He's going to get another start or 2 or 3, and they're going to see if he can correct what went wrong in the game on Sunday, and they're going to give him a chance to correct it. And I'm impressed with the team, too, because you lost 2 of your best hitters in Jackson Chourio and Andrew Vaughn. Chourio before the first game was even played to a fractured hand, and Andrew Vaughn after the first game was played, and the offense is still finding ways to produce. And they're never out of games. They have trailed, I think, every game that they've played this year. But in every game played this year, they've managed to take the lead. And I know they lost one of the games this year, and I'm not going to overreact to the game they lost. But it was slightly concerning that they lost the game going out there with their strength, and that's their bullpen. Ashby and McGill, 2 of their better arms out of the pen, were the ones to give up the tying and go-ahead runs in that game. So, what are your early thoughts on the Brewers? Let me know. Switching to basketball and the Milwaukee Bucks. It's been a rough season, and the win against Dallas kind of hurts a little bit because I would have rather had that be a loss at this point. You got the Celtics tomorrow. You got the Grizzlies on Sunday. It's a very it's been a very tough season to be a Bucks fan, nonetheless. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I'm going to try to get my guy Tristan on in the next couple of weeks to talk about what he hopes to see this offseason. But what I hope to see this offseason is cleaning house of the coaching staff, cleaning house of the front office, and let's try things anew. I think John Horst has done everything John Horst can do to try to get the Bucks another championship. He's not good at drafting. And most of his big moves he's trying to make since acquiring Drew Holiday has failed. The Damian Lillard trade failed due to an injury. The Miles Turner signing after stretching and releasing Damian Lillard has not looked very good. Trading, Holiday in general hasn't looked that great for the Bucks. Hiring Adrian Griffin after Budenholzer has been bad, and now hiring Doc Rivers to replace Adrian Griffin and not doing an actual search for your next head coach has really set the team back too, because now you've been kind of stuck with Doc Rivers. I hope the Bucks bring in a new GM, different vision, different voice, different strategy, bring in some new front office people, and bring in a new coaching staff. Do a real search. Do a real coaching search to find the best fit for the job, and not just who the Haslam family, Jimmy Haslam, thinks is he wants his buddy to have the job instead. Like, do an extra search and hire the best guy for the job, and then hire the best coach for the best GM for the job, then hire the best coach for the job. That's what I need to see the Bucks do. Then I'll worry about, do they keep Giannis or not? Do they trade guys like Miles Turner and Bobby Portis or not? Who do they draft with their lottery pick? Then I'll worry about those things. I do think Giannis is back. I don't think he gets traded this offseason. And I also think he signs his Supermax in October when he is able to sign his Supermax. That's my thought on Giannis and the Bucks. And moving on to the NFL. And the NFL is preparing to go into the 2026 season with replacement officials, because the officials union and the NFL have not reached an agreement for their next contract, and they're starting to get the ball rolling to start training smaller college officials to take over on a replacement basis until the NFL and the officials reach an agreement. And stop me if you've heard that one before. We saw what happened in 2012, even before the Packers and the Seahawks debacle that brought the actual officials back. We saw several games prior to that Packers-Seahawks game where calls were missed, calls weren't made, things weren't seen, that you get really concerned. And then you're like, well, what happens if one of their calls ends up, costing a team a game? And then sure enough, the officials, the replacement officials, cost Green Bay a game against Seattle by getting the call wrong in the end zone, which then forced the Packers to have a road playoff game instead of a home playoff game. And the rest, as they say, was history. And I know you should never allow the game to get into the hands of the officials, and you shouldn't allow that to happen, and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, it did happen, and the replacement officials screwed up. The NFL admitted they screwed up, and they admitted they screwed up by finalizing a contract with the actual officials almost immediately after that game happened. So I do have some concerns. So not going to get to the Packers today. Not going to get to WWE today. I might do that over the weekend or early next week. But I do appreciate you all watching Talking Sports with Evan, giving a listen to the podcast. I appreciate every single one of you. I will continue to bring you programming each and every week, sometimes multiple times a week if need be. And next week, got a feeling it's going to be one of those weeks. You got the national championship game on Monday, which my brackets are pretty much toast. And you got some other stuff going on between now and then that I'm sure would need to be discussed and talked about. So with that said, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll be back at you next week. And I hope you all have a great and wonderful Easter weekend. And I'll talk to you later.
It beats strong.